Unfortunately, people skip right away and they go right into the fun stuff. I always recommend some sort of technique work, light load, technical work to really drill in some of those basics and fundamental shapes or positions you're gonna work on. Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Shift's YouTube channel. My name is Dave Tilley. Super excited to do a very popular requested one today, which is breaking down what I think is good to put in a warm-up. We're gonna break down kind of all the components that I think everyone should really be thinking about when they build a warm-up and kind of how to break up your time so that you're not spending 2 hours warming up and 30 minutes working out. We're gonna go through all this, but if it's your first time back to the channel or you haven't been here in a while, brand new to the channel, welcome. So awesome to have you here. But do us a favor and just like and subscribe below, and then also get alerts for the notification bells because the videos have been very popular. We love hearing back from the community about what they like, but also we take all of our recommendations from the comment section on previous videos. If you want to see the new video when it comes out, and then make sure you drop a comment below to get your video topic talked about, that's pretty much the best way to do it. Here, we're gonna break these things down, but I just wanna make sure people kind of think about the bigger picture here, right? Like, it's really easy to get caught up, and I'm someone who's a victim of doing this as a medical provider, as someone who's coached a lot of athletes in gymnastics and many other sports, someone who consults with a lot of programs. I used to get caught up in the weeds of all the fancy stuff you gotta do, and 20 minutes of this, and 10 minutes of this, and then all of this, right? Like, it's very easy to build a massive warm-up program and not actually get to the workout piece of it. I'd rather talk to you about kind of the chunks of things that I think are important, and then you, based on your expertise or things that you like, can plug and play the different exercises that you believe are good. First things first, I really believe that warm-ups should have a general component, which is important for everyone to do, but I really believe they should be program and sport specific, right? So the way you warm up for, say you're doing a lifting workout, the way you're gonna warm up for like a really heavy bench day versus a really heavy squat day are going to be slightly different, right? You're gonna maybe have a general soft tissue prep, as we'll talk about, and some other stuff. You might do different stretching exercises and different shoulder strength activation exercises and chest activation for your bench day as you do for your squat day. Vice versa, the way you would warm up for gymnastics specific training is very different than how you'd warm up for soccer training, which is very different than how you might warm up for swimming training, right? There's a lot of specific nuances in the sport, and so I think it's sometimes a problem I used to make and other people I see make is that they would take a program that they thought looked awesome and just copy paste it right to their sport or their group, and it's really gonna only lead to frustrations and headaches. Really think it's important to work with a great coach, work with someone who understands the sport, and kind of think about, yes, everyone should do a dynamic warm-up, everyone should do a piece of this puzzle, but we do want to make sure that athletes have specific stuff for what they're doing that day in their training session or what that sport actually needs. That being said, everyone is going to go through a couple really important phases, okay? One that I think everyone really needs to make sure they do is some sort of soft tissue prep. I think that the world of strength conditioning has gone through a big pendulum swing where, like, you know, foam rolling came out, it was all the rage, people were going nuts, and then everyone said, no, never use foam rolling, it's stupid. As with most things, the pendulum falls somewhere in the middle. This can help us increase some blood flow. It can also help us increase some of the stretching potential of an area, right? We don't want to go in cold turkey and not do any warm up and then just immediately start lifting. I think there's a lot of options here, anywhere from foam rolling to Theraguns that are getting really popular right now, massage guns, all the way to just doing really specific stretching, doing more of a dynamic mobility as we'll talk about, but some sort of soft tissue prep I personally recommend based on what you're doing in the program that day, and then based on some screening or a movement screen to work on specific areas you might need, right? Say you have an old ankle injury, your calves never quite got their ankle mobility back, maybe doing some calf soft tissue prep is really important for you. Also, maybe in your program that day, like I said, maybe one day you're benching, another day you're squatting, another day you're deadlifting, right? On the first day, you might do a lot of soft tissue prep for the chest and some areas that you're gonna be working. The second day when you're squatting, you might do more specific emphasis on your adductors, your quads, and your calf muscles to squat low. The third day when you're maybe working on something else like hinging or deadlifting, maybe it's more hamstring focused and more core focused. A lot of stuff specific to it. I always tell people to kind of do a general nice little warm up, but also try to really focus on those certain areas. Maybe some of the stretches and some of the soft tissue stuff you're doing for your deadlift day, it has leg lowers, it has hamstring stuff in it, versus squatting, maybe it has some goblet squats and some quad and adductor warm up. Do a soft tissue prep. I usually recommend about 30 to 60 seconds of a few different key areas. So the legs, the arms, different stuff like that. And then also maybe doing in some of your specific stuff you maybe got from a screen, from a medical provider or a strength coach. I usually recommend 30 to 60 seconds of specific stretching or other things that you're working on. I also think this is a really great time to throw in some breathing drills. Okay, so a lot of people might have a position or a posture that they're trying to work for that day. So say they're in a very extended athlete, they have a lot of overarch in their pelvis, but they're gonna wanna do some deadlifting. So they maybe wanna work on activating their core and generally to brace under load and getting them a little bit more neutral or posteriorly tilted. You might be able to do some rock back deep exhale breathings there. Opposite thing too, maybe someone is very rounded, maybe they need some more extension because they're trying to arch a little bit more. Maybe they're gonna do some cat camels, some deep breathing exhales that way. Okay, so lots lots of options to do. Some soft tissue work, some stretching work, some breathing work. I typically try to find about 3 to 5 things somebody needs, and I put them in the program for that day. After we do that, maybe that takes us about 3 to 5 minutes. We would move down here, maybe do some strength or some power preparation, right? Or some activation, as some people call this, right? So literally what we want to do here is kind of think about what we're working again, but maybe the opposite of that joint, right? So maybe we're going to work on some bench press, like I said. So maybe we are going to do some direct pec flies. Maybe we're going to do some light band pull downs. Maybe we're going to do some band pull aparts too to warm the back up equally. For the hips, if we're going to be squatting a lot or doing deadlifting a lot, we're going to want to warm the hamstrings up. We're going to want to warm up the glutes and the external rotators too. So maybe we do some side plank clamshells, some side band walks, maybe do some single leg weighted hip lifts. Maybe we do a little bit of like single leg split squats or skater squats to warm the legs up specific to the movements that we're going to do. Anything you can kind of think about there, again, specific to the program, but maybe we're going to do about 10 reps or so, a few different exercises that we know are important. Like I said, if we're doing like an overhead snatch day, if we're an Olympic lifter versus a clean day, we might do some upper back band pull aparts. We might do some full cans. We might do some pro and external rotations. We might do some deep squatting with the barbell and kind of warm the core up as well. Some dead bugs, bird dogs, just to kind of get things going a little bit. Okay, some farmer carries are great too if anyone's doing any like squatting on that day. So 10 reps of a few different exercises just to kind of get the hips warmed up, the upper back warmed up, or whatever muscle group you're going to work on that day, specific to the movement and the program or the sport that you're working in. So we might go through something like that. Okay, in a sport situation, this might be the whole group kind of gets and does their soft tissue stuff together, and then everybody goes through a couple repetitions of different exercises you're going to need, and then everybody kind of gets together and goes on to the next phase, right, which is going to be some sort of general cardiovascular warm up, right? So cardiovascular is typically something we all want to do because we want to try to increase the heart rate, get the blood pumping, get the nervous system ramped up. So, you know, in a sport setting, like with a team, it might be doing skipping, side shuffle, 50% effort sprints, and then a little bit more of doing some single leg bounding, some plyometrics. That might be something you work on for a team sport. For an individual person who's working on a lift, they might hop on a bike for 5 minutes, do some intervals. They might do 30 seconds with their arms, 30 seconds with their legs, 30 seconds together for 3 rounds. Maybe they go for a light intervals on a jog. Everything is specific to the sport that they're working on, but some sort of general kind of cardiovascular warm up just to get the blood pump and try to ramp up to the next gear to try to get ready for the next thing that you're going to do. After we do some sort of cardio work, I think pretty well known that some sort of dynamic stretching or dynamic mobility work is really good to do. So what we're trying to do in this position is kind of transition all of this slow ramp up. I typically try to go for more multi-joint approaches, right? So doing some compound movements like knee hugs, butt kicks, things like that. So Cossack squat, turn, knee to elbow stretch with a thoracic rotation, some arm circles, some different inchworm walkouts to get core and hamstrings together. There's a lot of different options here, but usually you can do 3 to 5 of these that you kind of look at. So we can do 3 to 5 different exercises based on your program, or some team sports might have a more structured kind of like, you know, every day we do 5 to 10 minutes of these dynamic stuff. Maybe they have an A day and a B day, they switch it back and forth. I like this approach because you're kind of slowly ramping up from soft tissue stuff, more relaxed stuff, getting the cardio system going, and then trying to keep that heart rate up and move as you're going through your program with everybody kind of doing the same thing or getting going, or if you're by yourself, keeping the heart rate up, keeping things moving together. So from there, maybe we're talking about, you know, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here. Maybe we're in like a 15-minute position now. Last 10 or so minutes, pretty much just seamlessly blend right into the actual workout. I'm really a big fan of doing movement prep specific to what you're going to work out. So let's take that example like we talked about with the benching situation. We might do some like very slow controlled push-ups to warm the chest up. If you're benching that day, you might just do some empty barbell, you know, nice and slow controlled. You might do some dumbbell bench presses to kind of get the chest warmed up specific to that movement. If you're doing your squatting day, maybe it's some deep low pause goblet squats, maybe some barefoot squats, trying to get the ankles and hips warmed up. If you're doing deadlifting, maybe you're doing some hip hinging at a wall, maybe some banded pull throughs, maybe some sort of trap bar light activation work, just trying to get the hamstrings moving. So some sort of specific movement prep. I usually give people 2 sets of that, just to kind of think about the major movements in their set and that are coming up for the program. Look at your maybe big 1A movements, or if you're in a sport, soccer, right, versus sprinting versus gymnastics, you might do specific stuff, handstands, jogging, sprinting, agility work, whatever else you're going to do, but very specific to the intentional thing you're trying to learn that day with your program, right? So maybe you're going to work on sprinting lateral work today. Maybe you're going to work on throwing mechanics. Maybe you're going to work on handstands for gymnastics. Whatever it is, you'd want to blend right into that movement prep for that specific motion you're working on. Last thing we would do, which I think unfortunately people skip right away and they go right into the fun stuff, I always recommend some sort of technique work, light load, technical work to really drill in some of those basics and fundamental shapes or positions you're going to work on. Okay, so that might be 2 to 3 working sets of your bench press, super lightweight, just working on where your gaps are, your hand position, your bar tension, your leg drive, your arch. Again, throwing, it might be 25 to 30% effort playing light catch, where you're just going through the motions, but you're really dialing in how you're feeling your separation and stuff like that. For gymnastics, that might look at something that looks more hollows and arches and handstands and jumping landing mechanics. Whatever the fundamental thing is for your sport, or whatever the fundamental thing is you're training that day, maybe in a front rack, for example, if you're working on a clean that day, you might do very very lightweight front rack cleans, trying to really get the elbows up, keep the positions really nice and solid. Very light work for about 2 to 3 sets, and then from there, go about your business. I think this flow kind of comes in one shape or another whenever I work with programs or I try to consult with people, or when I'm designing rehab programs, or when I'm designing actual strength and conditioning programs for sports and stuff like that. I think this kind of idea is good to kind of work with it. Bonuses, again, if you're working with a strength coach or a medical provider who can give you a specific screen and say, hey, on this day, work on these things for this kind of joint movement pattern, or you can work with a strength coach who can kind of give you this ramp up program by yourself. Just in review, make it program specific. I like soft tissue prep a little bit, whether that's stretching, soft tissue care with foam rolling, or like some guns and stuff like that, or doing some sort of a screen to figure that out. Stretching is great as well. Doing some sort of strength or power activation, just about 10 reps of a few exercises. Doing some general cardiovascular stuff on a bike or jogging or some lines. Move into a dynamic mobility, multi-joint focus, trying to really keep the heart rate up and keep people moving. Then lastly, based on what you're doing that day, do some specific movement prep for those motions. And then lastly, don't forget that technique work to really dial in the new mobility or strength work that you've kind of been working on for your program. Get that to show up so it looks really good, and then get after it. Have fun. Get after your training session, whatever you want to do. This was a requested topic. I hope that people enjoyed it. Hope it cleared the air up a little bit. If you'd like to know more about anything in here, let us know. I'm happy to break down certain movements. I'm happy to break down, what you do on a squat day, something like that. Please do us a huge favor and just drop a comment below and say what you'd like to learn in the future, or also what you'd like from this video and you'd like to hear more about. But also just like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also just get the alert for notification bells, because the more people that can see these, the more comments we get. Pretty much all the videos come from feedback from everyone in our community, which we're super grateful to have. So we want to hear from you. We'd like to know. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you in the next episode.